Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Blue Sunday Live. Coming to you live from sunny Bangkok. I've got the one and only Mr. Vince Lochisano. Vince, where are you coming to us live from?
Coming to you from the lockdown capital of the world, Melbourne, Australia.
Oh, that's great. Mr. Beach.
Good evening, everyone. The same city as well, Melbourne, Australia, and the great state of Victoria.
Okay, and Goz.
I'm coming from the prison state. Oh, sorry, the Australian state of Victoria.
Okay, and we've just had a late entrance. I've got Steve. Hi, Steve. How you going?
Steve, take yourself off mute.
Your mic, Steve.
Steve.
Take yourself off mute, Stephen, and give us your video. Where is he?
He's gone. No,
I'm not Steve.
You might have to speak to him, Vince, because I'll remove him. But anyway, there it is. Guys, been a week since we've last seen each other. As Vince said just before we came on air. Hang on, Steve's put his microphone on. Hi, Steve. How you going? Can you hear us? Steve. No, I don't know what's going on. So, Vince, we might have to get him on the phone and have a chat to him. I will in a minute. But anyway, guys, free agency and trade period have finished. I think we've been rated 9 out of 10 by the pundits. I'll start with you, Vince. What do you think? And I'll just try and get hold of Steve in the background.
Well, I think we've done pretty well. And I think most people think that we're one of the big winners out of the trade period because we've got Adam Chera and we've got George, what's his surname again? I've forgotten. Hewitt. George Hewitt. And to a lesser extent, Lewis Young. But, of course, all of that comes at a cost. And I think we've only got the 3 picks in the draft period coming up at the end of November. But I think we can be pretty pleased with what we've picked up. We seem to have addressed a few of our deficiencies, predominantly in the midfield. We've also got a potential key position player there in Young. So, look, I think most people would say we've done pretty well out of it. Joe, you've muted yourself. Take yourself off mute, Joe.
Yeah, sorry. I've been trying to talk to Steve. So, Mr. Beach, what do you think?
Okay, well, I echo Vince's words. We've landed the players we wanted to target. It's now up to us to put those puzzle pieces into their correct slots, and we now move forward together as a club to get back to the promised land where, to be quite honest, we deserve to be.
Sorry, I've unmuted myself. Guys, what do you think?
How can I top with what Beachy just said? Honestly, we made a promise who we were going to target, and we moved. I must say, we moved very quickly, swiftly, and I believe we didn't give too much away to get what we wanted. I do have a couple of questions which I'm happy to address later on, but I'm quite happy with where we are, to be honest. We were just topping up on the list at the moment, and I think we've done a good job in that regard.
Okay. So, look, I've been trying to get Steve. Vince, maybe it might be an ideal if you mute yourself and give him a call, because I can see him sitting there. He's saying he can't hear us or see us. So anyway, but on that note, like I think Vince said, we've got 3 trades, or we've got 3 picks in the draft. I don't know whether we're going to use them all, to be honest. I mean, we've got pick 25, 62, and something else late. I did have it here. Yeah.
Joe, can I just throw something in there now that you mentioned the picks? And this is only going by I don't know, external factors or internal factors, or whatever you want to call it. Josh Cripps, where's the club standing with him at the moment? Because he's getting quite a lot of raps, not because of his surname, but because of what he's done so far and the talent he has within
Yeah.
himself, the quality. So where do we stand with that? I mean, pick, if I'm not mistaken, 25, like you said.
Yeah, but
is that enough to nab him?
yeah, I've heard all this story about Josh Cripps, and I mean, to be honest, because I'm in Bangkok, I don't really know a lot about the players in the draft. I mean, I can only go by what we read. I don't know how good he is. I don't know how bad he is. I'm going to assume that he's not a top 10 pick. I mean, we're going to have to wait till pick 25. I mean, we're not going to get him under a father and son. So I don't know whether I don't know whether there's a brother and brother clause. So, I'm not sure. Hang on, this is all going crazy here. So, so I'm not really sure about Mr. Cripps. Hang on, we've got a new member of the panel. Hi, Deb. Can you hear us?
Debs.
Hello, I've finally got my sound and everything right. My husband helped me out. We had no idea what went wrong there, but yeah.
Hello, husband.
Hello, husband.
Tech support.
Tech support. Bye.
Hey, Deb. We were just talking before you came on about how you think we did in the pre-season trading, or the free agency and the trade period. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, I actually think we did pretty well. I mean, I know everybody was a bit disappointed with Nick with Newman not being re-signed, but I think if you look at it, look at his position and what we've got and what we brought in, he would never be in our top 22. We don't need another player like him in the group. If you look, I mean, I did some research about who we picked up, and I actually think, unfortunately, he's a peripheral. He's not somebody
who are you talking about, Deb?
Gibbo, not Newman. Gibbo.
Yeah.
No.
I was confused then.
Sorry, so was I. I just think he's unfortunately he will never be in a top 22.
Mind you, I thought that was a bit strange. I mean, he came out and had a bit of a moan on the radio, which I don't really agree with what he did.
I agree, yeah.
But apparently he was told by the club that he's a midfielder and he's superfluous, but they've never played him there. So, I mean, look, we're only getting one side of the story. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm really surprised that we've sort of kept Cotterill on. I'm not surprised. Oh, really?
Cotterill or even Lockie O'Brien, and I'll tell you why.
Tell us why, Deb.
Go for it, Deb. Show us.
If you get rid of those two players, they're fringe players. At the moment. They're young fringe players. If you were to get rid of them, you would get nothing for them. If you were to delist them, you would get nothing for them. We wouldn't get any draft picks. We wouldn't get any trade deals. You'd get nothing for them. So what are you doing? You've got three players in the draft who in the draft period, in the upcoming draft period. We've got 3 picks. Who are you going to bring in? There's no other players from other clubs that are interested in coming or wanting to leave their clubs and have those type of positions. They're young players, especially like Cotterill's just turned 21. They're giving both players 1 more year. And also, if you want to get a better player, you've got to look at the salary cap issue. So if we were to drop those 2 and get other players, first of all, Gibbons doesn't fit the same role that Lockie O'Brien and Cotterill does. He doesn't fit that role. So what are you gaining? You're gaining nothing, but you're gaining 2 players who will give you a bit more depth in the playing group, because they hopefully will be able to fill a role if another player is off injured. So that's why I think I have no issue with it. I think it's a good fit. They've got another year. They're on the rookie list. They've got another year. Let's see what happens at the end of next year. Let's see what happens when we pick up our draft.
Hey, Debs, sorry to jump in, guys. Sorry, Joe. So you're telling me, and I'm not discrediting anybody here, as quality players or opinions, but you're telling me that Lockie O'Brien and look, I'm going to focus on Lockie O'Brien. You're telling me that he I feel, for me personally, I feel like he has not done enough to justify his position on the team. And don't get me wrong, I'm not heartbroken that Gibbons hasn't been offered an extended contract, but I would be fooled to believe that that I wasn't surprised, because I was very surprised that Gibbons was delisted, but Lockie O'Brien and Cottrell have been given a lifespan, a lifeline.
What positions do they play? What position is Gibbo? Gibbo is a midfielder, irrespective of where he says he hasn't been played. He hasn't performed well in any other position. He's a midfielder. So you've got Cottrell and O'Brien, and they're not midfielders. They play down in the back line. So what you're dropping, you're getting rid of two players who are potentially there for depth in your back line. And then you want to keep a midfielder who has not performed in the back line. He's not that type of player. So you've got to look at the positions. I mean, I love Gibbo. I love what he brought, but with our list sizes cut, if we had 47, which we had before COVID, if you had 47 players on your list size, I reckon Gibbo would still be there. But you've got to look at the numbers, and you've got to look at what you would get.
No, fair call.
No, fair call. Guys asked a question before about Josh Cripps. So Sandra McDonald, good evening, Sandra, has written to us and said, Joshua Cripps, East Fremantle, Western Australia, 19 years old, height 199 centimetres, weight 94 kilograms, big boy. Position, ruck, key forward, strength, size, size and one-on-ones. His average in the WA Colts, he played 8 games, 15 disposals with an average of 3.5 marks, 2 tackles and 1.5 inside 50s, 8.5 hit outs, 1.5 goals. As those of you who know me very well, I'm not really a stats man, but I don't know where we'll pick him. I'm hoping if he's half as good as his brother and we pick him, welcome to the Blues. I open my arms to anyone. I mean, stupidly, sometimes I put too much faith in the club, and look where it's got me so far. Hey, guys, I'm just going to drop you and Beachy out for 10 minutes. I'm just going to bring Steve in.
Mate.
Hopefully we can get Steve working. So, Steve, can you hear us?
I can. My apologies. I had to reboot the whole reboot. Yeah.
Success.
Lots of issues.
We've had the internet heebie-jeebies. We had poor Deb before the show, just couldn't get on. And we had Steve sort of sitting there. But anyway, Steve, what do you think about what's happened so far with the trade period? Thoughts?
Yeah, look, it's the trade period is probably busy and successful. However, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul in one sense, because essentially our draft pick situation will be pick 25, and then I believe it's a pick in the 60s and then a pick in the 80s. So and then of course you don't have a third round pick next season, which it's credit, it's on the never, but nonetheless you still have to deal with that. So the strategy for mine seems like it's all about the group they have at the moment and the success of that group they have at the moment, including a number of players that are that have underperformed considering their salary and their tenure of contract. That's okay, but the eggs are in that basket, aren't they? The eggs are totally in the basket of the here and now, the group they have, and their ability to get the best out of it. If the here and now is not the right group, and we find that out, unfortunately, hopefully we don't, but if we do find that out, we will be in an awful pickle, because we'll have players like Martin, players like McGovern, players such as Williams, just to name a few that are on big coin, that essentially we will not be able to, if we can trade them out, I'm not suggesting we're talking about trading those players right now, but if we can trade them out, you're looking at paying at least part of their salary, and we don't have those draft picks we don't have the draft picks both now and next year, or we've lost a draft pick for next year. So look, they're backing themselves in. It's good. It's aggressive and confident. We've been here before, though. The word cautious optimism's been used quite a lot, and I think that would be the word I would continue to use.
Yeah.
It's successful, yes, but anyone can be successful trading their first round pick, as well.
Yeah, but we haven't been very successful at trading our first round picks lately. So
sorry, you're right. What I meant, Joe, is anyone can use their first round pick should they wish. Doesn't mean it'll be successful. It's currency.
I don't think we need another first round pick player right now. I think if going by what Voss and Sayers and Brad Lloyd, and going by what they've all said, is they want to make finals. I think having a first round draft pick for this year, I don't think will be more of a hindrance for us than anything else, because we don't need that type of player anymore now.
That's if they're right, Debbie.
Correct. That's right. You're absolutely right, Steve. They've got a huge gamble. It's a huge gamble, and if it's right, fantastic. But if it's wrong, it's going to throw us a throw in the face.
On one hand, the strategy is that it's finals or bust. It's the new coach, the new assistants, the new CEO. We've looked at ourselves, and now we've reset everything based on our review and so forth, and we're all moving forward. It's all squeaky clean. But if that's not the case, and they do need to draft in future players, there can be a profile hole in the drafting, because essentially you've got players, as I said to you, you've got players on big money, and then you've got limited picks in the future. Let's hope they're right, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm seeing a few of the comments here. Ross and Angela Fiore saying Gibbons, Cottrell, O'Brien are all C graders. Should have got rid of them. Probably, yeah. I think the jury's still out on O'Brien. I mean, he was a pick 10. He can't be that bad. So I don't know if we haven't been.
Could you say that he's been coached? He's been mismanaged. He hasn't been coached correctly. If he was such a high draft pick, then there's got to be something in him. I mean, to turn around and say, let's move on from mediocre players. If you look at any premiership side, I don't care who it is, at some stage, some of the players were mediocre. It's about how the team, how the coach and everybody pushes them forward to become more than a mediocre player.
Yeah.
So if you look at O'Brien, Debbie, I mean, he's going to be re-rookied, I believe. So you're not really selling the farm there. It's a disappointment though from a club. It's an indictment on the club, really, because we've selected that player, and to think, a couple of few years later that you're re-rookieing a player of his, in the top handful of draft picks in that year that we backed in, either three things. Either the player was, lazy, didn't work hard when he got to Carlton, either the development was poor, or the pick was wrong.
That's what someone's saying on the side. But, I mean, we had the doyen of selections there with Sauce. I mean, he's the one that picked him, and everyone was ranting his, singing his praises. But look, I mean, the other one is SPS. I mean, that is such a huge disappointment. He in his first year he showed so much, and then I don't know. Yeah, go Deb.
I could see because I didn't want to. I could see watching him play after about 6 months. I knew he was not going to last at Carlton. He's one of these people who miss it. No, you could see it. It's not that he doesn't like playing with the team or whatever. I think it is. He's the type of person that has to be near his family. He's actually mentioned it a few times, how much he loves West Australia. He misses his family. And I think for that type of person, he was never going to be a long-term for us. He was never going to stay. I could have placed a bet on, and I don't like gambling. A bet on anybody that he'd be going back.
Wasn't there an Indigenous focus, though, of Carlton building on its Indigenous roots, getting players like Jack Martin, even Eddie Betts for that 2-year period and so forth, to try and bring those Indigenous players together and build that sort of bond? Wasn't that part of the strategy?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. But for some players, they just cannot handle being
So-
that far away.
Okay, so Halls Creek is about, and Vince or Joe, you
It's
probably
a
got better
long way,
geography. Yeah, it's 800
Long
k's,
way.
right? You might as well be in another state.
Well, you
It is
are.
a very different. Yeah, it's a different way of life to metropolitan Perth. Down at Northbridge or Subiaco, but essentially, it is a different place. So he would have to, do numerous trips back to be able to
But right
get in
now, I
touch with his family.
I think COVID has made
Oh,
him
it would have killed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have killed it for him because he
Yep.
couldn't travel to.
We don't blame the
Sydney.
premiers. We're not going to get into that discussion.
No.
No.
But what I'm saying is,
No.
I think for him, because family and his culture is so part ingrained in him, because I've heard him speak, that because of what happened with COVID and the fact that he couldn't travel to WA, whereas in WA they've got this huge freedom, I think for him, he was never going to stay for long term.
Well, I'm going to butt in there.
Yeah.
I don't believe in all this "I want to go home" factor. You're a grown man. You're an adult. You're a professional sports person, right?
I will tell you.
Now-
Hang on a sec. Okay.
Now, hang on. Let me have a go first.
Yeah.
Steve will tell you, as a professional golfer, if you want to go win money, you have to go on tour. You can't say to the US Masters, "I don't want to come because I don't like American food." And you can't say to the Japanese, "I'm not coming to Japan because it's too cold." You're a professional. Act like a professional. Oh, Deb, you can shake your head, but I'm sorry, that's my view. If you want to play professional
Joe,
sport,
there are screening, and so I'm not arguing with either one of you. By the way, I'll just give you the background. There is all of this stuff's been looked at from when they earmarked him as a 15-year-old, right? They would have had him on the radar as a 15 or 14-year-old. They would have looked at all of this. They would have looked at the go home factor. It's not new. The whole go home factor is not new. It's been around for a long time. They would have looked at engaging with him and ensuring that they would create that. He would have lived with Shane O'Sullivan or someone like that. That's what they all do, don't they? Vince, you know about how all that works.
but have a look at professional sports people in Europe and in America. I mean,
That's different. That's different.
How?
So Debbie, you're saying the club isn't to blame at all?
Sorry?
Debbie, you're saying the club's not to blame at all. It's pure Samo was always going to go back, even if we'd won flags, or not. What's the percentage out of 100?
I think it's a combination of many different factors that you can't say that you're a professional sports person, so you have to understand that. I think in the past 2 years since COVID, I think there is so many different factors that has contributed for him wanting to leave. First of all, you've got the COVID, the fact that he couldn't travel to the WA. Second, you've got this issue with David Teague, which I think this whole thing, you're right, most professional sports people should be able to understand the fact that they've got to travel, but you've got to understand that for some people, it's just for mental health reasons, they just cannot do it. I don't.
So Debbie, I'll ask you this question. Yep. And I'm actually, I can see both sides to this. If he was from the Northern Territory or somewhere where there wasn't an AFL side to go and play at, if he was to go home, would he still continue his career or would he hang the boots up completely?
No, I probably think he could have maybe even requested a trade to one of the South Australian teams if he wanted to go there.
Yep.
So
okay.
I'm just
So it's a little bit about Carlton, then you're saying.
Yeah, I actually do. As I said, I think it's the issue what happened with surrounding the issues with David Teague. I mean, he was very close to him. I mean, for some people, you have to understand the mental health issue. That for a player like that, not everybody can be as tough as some other players, like other players who move completely interstate, stay interstate, and are happy there. For some players, they just can't do it.
But for some reason, Deb, it seems to happen only here in Australia. I've never heard Cristiano Ronaldo say, "I want to go home to Portugal." I've never heard Lionel Messi say, "I want to go home to Argentina." I've never heard LeBron James say, "I want to go home to wherever he's from." It seems to be here. I don't know if it's the amount of money involved. I don't know if it's the mental toughness of Australians, right? I don't hear any females. I don't hear any
Joe,
females say, I want to go.
with respect, though, the go home factor's only been something that's really been the last decade or so.
Yeah.
It's been because the players have now got more power in their trade. Like
Correct.
if you were talking about this 10 or 15 years ago, the player would never say, I'm requesting a trade and, you know, get me there. There wouldn't be that at all, would there?
You see,
No,
you got
Now you can do that.
Yeah, so you got to look at clubs now from around the world: basketball, soccer, cricket. They all have some sort of psychologist or psychiatrist or some sort of mental health expert there, because too many times you're losing players. I mean, which was that Bulldogs player that left because of mental health issues? We even had one of our own players.
Boyd.
Yeah, Boyd.
He actually quit the game.
Yeah,
Won a flag though, but yeah.
Yeah. But we've
Number
had
one
one of our own players who stepped back from the
He was a
game.
Carlton supporter too, I believe.
Yeah, to step back from the games because of mental health issues.
We need the sandpit. We need Rash from the sandpit to talk about the mind and all the chemistry and the yin and the yang and all of this sort of stuff and the balances and imbalances that you require at elite level. It's Rash, if you're listening out there in the sandpit, chime in. I reckon this would be a great little topic for you to provide your insights.
He's on.
He's on.
he just said hi, hey guys.
There you go.
I just think the mental health issue is becoming more and more prevalent in sporting clubs. And if you've got the Ronaldos, they've got the money to be able to combat that. You've got LeBron James, they've got the money to combat that. We're still a really small microchip.
Okay. So then, Debbie, we got what pick did we get? It was certainly about 3 rounds behind that we initially picked him up on. So essentially, he lost a bit of currency and gained experience in the league. I mean, that's also a little bit damning, though, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nonetheless.
I agree. Yeah. I completely agree.
Sorry, Nick. Vince has been very quiet. Speak. You
Can't hear you.
I'm waiting for you to ask me something, Joe.
Well,
I'm quite happy to sit here and listen to two intelligent people, debate the issue of mental health.
No, I'm not.
I know I'm the first. Who's the second one? No, sorry. I'm a bit hard. I just think if you choose to be a professional, you have to go where the money is and where it is.
I was just going to say, it's amazing how when you quoted why doesn't Cristiano Ronaldo have these issues and Lionel Messi, maybe a few $100 million a year might make a bit of difference.
Yeah.
But look, players, especially at young ages like 18, 19, when they first get drafted, they're still used to living at home with mum and dad and going to school and mucking around with friends, and we expect them to all of a sudden just jump into this bubble called AFL football and just fit in like it's, without any issues and without any problems. But the reality is that it does come with its issues, whether it's accommodation and who they're living with, or where they're studying or what they're going to be studying, or where they're going to work if they're going to have a job outside of footy. I think that's part of the issue. Yeah. Not enough of them have other activities to fall back on outside of football. So it becomes their entire world these days because it's such a purely professional sport.
But Vince, it's not the Mark McClure days either where they train on Sunday and go to the pub afterwards, right? There's a balance there as well. You can't just have that 9 to 5 Tuesday, Thursdays.
Moved on. I understand that things have moved on since those days when they used to go down to Norton's pub in Royal Parade, Parkville, and drown their sorrows for a couple of hours. But
maybe we should let them.
Well, in fact, some people actually say that there should be a little bit more downtime for the boys to do that sort of thing and get together, and it doesn't hurt as long as they don't go overboard. I subscribe to that too. I mean, you've just got to try and keep it real as possible, because it is a bubble. There's no question that from the moment they enter it and to the day they leave it. It'd be interesting to have a chat with someone like Mark Murphy, who's just retired, or Eddie Betts, who's just retired, and see how they feel after spending half their lives. What are they, 34, roughly 35 years of age now? And really half of their lives have been spent inside the football bubble. and their sense of reality can sometimes be tainted by what they experience inside that bubble. And once they leave it, it's amazing how many players do sink into, at least the level of, if not depression, certainly some players suffer, some real down moments in their lives after all of a sudden they're no longer the focus of attention. They're no longer asked for their autograph, or they're no longer on the tip of everyone's tongue.
And Vince, David Glasgow publicly talked about his challenges in the past, and so I think Jeff Southby, although that was during his career and so forth, but many players have had those challenges. I know Eddie Betts, though, you did mention he sort of went to the point where I think he was going to quit football completely at a certain point in time, right? So it is hard, and we don't understand the scrutiny that they're under, because we're scrutinising them ourselves, right? But at the end of the day, there's got to be that element to what Debbie's saying. I'm sort of in between Debbie and Joe on this one. I think that.
I'd like to bring up another point, which when Joe, when you mentioned the European, the soccer stars and the LeBron James and everything, you've got to understand that none of them come from this indigenous background. They're not.
Don't pull that, because
you have to.
I'm sure that LeBron James and them, what those Negroes.
No, because that is complete. They're not. That is a completely different thing. What I'm saying is that for Australia, for players like SBS, their indigenous culture is the very fibre of who they are, and at the moment, the rights of the indigenous people are not one that is in comparison to a player like the African Americans.
But I'm not just concentrating on SPS. I mean, we've got one, Adam Chera. I want to come back to Melbourne. I mean, we got him too. So I'm happy that he's come, but I would have liked it to have been. I wanted to come to a club because I think they're going to play in the premiership, not because I think
the Cups of Coffee in Fremantle did it, wasn't it? Is that the story the club's going with on that one?
What's that?
The cup of coffee in Fremantle and 5 players took a pay cut. I think that's the narrative, is it? Is that the spin?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah,
it's not go home. It's nothing to do or more money. It's the I want to be part of something special, and there's 5 players took a pay cut, and Cripper came and had a cup of coffee with me. Yeah.
As the Führer, the second Führer, not Dan Andrews, the second Führer, Leo Sayers has said, Carlton is a destination club.
He also said at the best and fairest something very similar to a Stephen Kernahan line where Carlton stuffed the rest sort of thing. I won't add the expletives. It was all about you don't know what we're doing at Carlton, or you don't know what we're.
Did you hear the mistake he made? Did you hear the mistake he made in his introduction?
What did he say? Welcome to the Collingwood Football Club. Best.
No, he was talking about something, and he said, and we're looking forward to a terrific year. He said terrible year. He said terrible.
Oh no!
Did you hear that? I was just a bit what?
Freudian slip, they call that.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm going to pull myself out. I'm going to control. I just want to give the other guys a go. Chris Beach is looking way too relaxed there, so I'm going to pull myself out for a minute and give Beachy on. Vince, you're going to take over.
I am. Okay, fair enough. At least I've got something. At least I've got something to do during this show. Beachy, why don't you give us your thoughts on this issue? Seeing Steve and Debbie have been locking horns on it. What do you think?
Yeah, like you, Vince, I've just been listening to the debate. This has been great stuff to listen to. I mean, they both have great points. I mean, unfortunately, as we know already, SBS has gone home, and Halls Creek is nearly 1,000 kilometres away from Optus Stadium in Perth. In fact, you could be much closer to Broome in that fact.
At least you can still travel within Western Australia if you're in Western Australia. Whereas if you're not in Western Australia, you can't even get in. It's almost like a different country.
If he lived in Melbourne and stayed at Carlton, let's say he lived in Carlton North, so 30 minutes up the Tullamarine Freeway to the airport, go through screening, jump on a plane,
be there in 5 hours,
close to the pointy end, you'd be in Perth in 5 hours.
But
If he was,
I was going to say Halls Creek in 5 hours. Go to Broome.
if you were to drive from Halls Creek, because I don't know about the regional Rex Airlines or anything like that, it's certainly, you need to take a picnic lunch, wouldn't you? A cut lunch as a travelling picnic basket to get yourself there. It'd be at least a day's drive, wouldn't it? If you weren't stopping very much. So
exactly right,
we
Steve.
talk about go home. It's not really that much closer.
No, it's not. But, as some people say, it's a cut lunch and a water bag, guys.
Yeah.
Because it's that far it's that far away from the city of Perth. I mean, he wants to be home near his family. That's fine. But at the same time, as Joe said as well, you're a professional athlete. Wherever you play is wherever you play. Now, whether that's in Perth, whether that's in Adelaide, or whether that's in Melbourne, you've still got a contract to honour.
Yeah.
Chris, do you think if West Coast or Fremantle had no interest in SPS, or would we have got better than the pick we did from another club if he was prepared to leave Carlton altogether? Do you think this was cooked up by the manager at the player's request earlier in the season? Do you think we lost out as a result of our investment in that player because that deal had to be done with that particular club?
Oh, it's a good question, Steve. For me, I don't know. I mean, you could say this is almost he said, she said. You've got to get both sides of the story. But even then, if he wanted to go home, then what's the point of keeping someone up that doesn't want to stay?
And that's my point, Chris. So you're stuck having to only trade it to two suitors. Trade him to two suitors. You've only got West Coast or Fremantle. You know that he doesn't want to be there, so you probably don't want him there because there's no point having a player that doesn't want to be there. Then you have to basically settle for whatever you get.
Otherwise, you get nothing because he had no further contract.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Otherwise, he puts himself in the preseason draft.
Oh,
he puts himself in the preseason draft, and then eventually,
we'll get nothing.
He goes to where he needs to go for nothing.
You get nothing.
That's what I'm saying. So we lose big time.
Well, we lose because he was not valued by any other club, let alone West Coast and Fremantle, at any more than a third-round draft pick.
Correct. Yeah.
So, effectively, he lost his value from the time we picked him up 5 years ago until now. He has devalued because he hasn't performed, especially this season just gone, where he got dropped from the team for the first time, I believe, a couple of times. So, he's gone from being a first-round pick 6 to a third-round pick 52.
So if we traded him at the end of last year, Vince, not this year, would we have got a second rounder for him? I know these are all hypothetical.
Possibly.
Yeah. So we also think if we hung on to him even longer and he didn't get to Perth, we might get 0.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to give him another contract for starters, wouldn't you?
Correct.
Or do the whole rookie list thing like we did with Lockie O'Brien.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, I guess we've spoken a lot about this go-home factor. Football club. I mean, we've got our list in order. The coaches are there. I guess the only thing we've got to look forward to now is the draft, and we're not going to be really active there. So, I mean, the hierarchy or the powers that be have put a lot of faith in the list that we have. So, what are people's thoughts because I don't think a number 25 draft pick is going to make that much of a difference to our list. The person probably may not even get a game next year.
Well, hang on, Joe. I think number pick 25 is not a bad pick because it's essentially an early second-round pick. And, Joe, there's been a lot of good players picked up in the 20s over the years.
Joe, we're going to get the same story. Oh, we're so happy we got him at 25. We thought he would have gone at 15. We're so happy he lasted that long. We couldn't believe he was available. We're so happy to have this guy. That's going to be the story no matter who you recruit.
But that's what I'm saying. So I don't think the person that we pick at number 15 is going to be the difference next year as to whether we play finals or whether we don't, unless it was a number 1 pick like Sam Walsh, which I don't think you're going to get at 25. So, what do people think about our list, and what are expectations for next year?
Okay, let's go.
I'll start with Vince.
Well, you want to start with me, do you?
Yeah, and then I'll
thought you'd start with
Beachy,
everyone else. Why don't you start with everyone else?
Is this a prediction in a bottle, is it?
Well, yeah, why not?
Start with our special guest for the week.
Okay, Steve, what do you think?
Me, all right. Look, 5 spots is well. We got to improve 6 spots, don't we, to finish 8th? That's the goal. That mythical top 8 finish that we all talk about every year, every February we talk about. How are we going to improve 6 spots? I mean, who's going to get worse in front of us? I think that's the question. It's everything's relative, isn't it? It's all relative. As much as we can beat our chest and say we're going to improve and finish in the 8, and I hope that happens. Let's look at who's going to fall out as well.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's also how much better are we going to be as a result of the trading that we've done, the recruiting that we've done, and the new coach and the whole new coaching regime. As much as we might look at who else is going to get worse, what about how much better are we going to be?
So if we improve 3 spots, so if we're a club that's 13th and we move to 10th, you would hope that some teams between that 1 to 9 get worse, so then our 10th becomes 8th. If you understand my logic.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a combination of some teams in that bracket getting worse. So, are Richmond going to miss the 8 next year? I mean, that's a good question. Maybe the round 1 may be a potential 8-point game. I'm calling it early. Between those 2 teams. Just to add to the hype, I think it's a Carlton home game, so we want to get a full crowd if we're allowed to have it. Let's sell that game. Market that. And then you've got to probably look at, Collingwood were as bad as they were. They'll be looking to improve as well, and they've got some good coaches and players, personnel back. I probably don't think they'll make the 8. We could have their measure, but who knows? So it's really looking at those other teams. Geelong, everyone's writing them off, but I can't see them missing the 8 completely. St Kilda, will they stay as bad as they are? Will they be marginally better than us still? Who knows? There'll be a few 8-point games in all of that, I think. That's what I'm trying to say. I think they can probably think.
We can only focus on Carlton. We are our own worst enemy. I mean, we've got to win the games, because if you look at some of those games this year, they were winnable, and we were in winnable positions.
Okay, so I'll say this to you. I'll say this to you, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. So we played very attacking football for short periods of games, and then couldn't defend. Exactly. Now, if they go to a defence mindset or a defend first mindset, which we all know that from Brendan Bolton's early days, will they still be able to flick that switch and attack? That's probably my question. If they can do that, they'll win more games, definitely. Will they be able to have that attacking slingshot flair where they all run forward, don't really have that defensive structure, and be able to just play that way? Because we all know those consecutive goals that were scored against us. So I suppose that's my question mark. I don't think you can fix that in the summer. So I think we may get 10th. That'd be a good result.
Yeah.
But I can't see 8th.
Okay.
But if I can see the improvement of what I've said, then that'll be good.
Yeah. Beachy, have a say, and then I'll get Goz in.
Fair enough. Look, Steve makes a good point. We've got to see improvement. We've now brought set players in to try and help us clean up that defence and help us be more aggressive in attack. You could also say if we got to 9th this coming season, that's also an improvement, because there's a jump up to 3. It's a jump up 4. Now, that means we just missed the 8 at the end of the season. But again, we want to see it. It's better to see it with actions than not words.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Beachy, I'll give you a bit of a rest. Deb, where's my mouse? Have a go, Deb.
I actually agree with Steve. I actually agree. I'm not going to turn around and say which teams are going to drop out, because who would have thought at the beginning of this year that Richmond, everybody tipped Richmond who are going to be in the premiership. They're going to make it to the grand final, but they didn't. And nobody would have actually thought right from the beginning of the season that it would be a Melbourne Bulldogs grand final. So I agree with Steve. I'm not going to talk about, we need to see improvement. I can't say where we're going to finish until the bye. I want to see us from round one to the bye. Then I can make, because we don't know. This is a new coach, a new coaching team. We've got the players. Yes, we've got new players, but I want to see what is going to be produced from the first round to the bye. Then I can make a prediction. I would love to see us in the top 8, but I don't know. I don't know. We have the talent. We have the players, but who knows? I can't say. I really
Debbie,
can't.
are you more interested? I'm going to ask this question. I think I know the answer. Are you more interested in the style of play and the way we look as a team and how organised we are than ladder position?
Yep. Because for me, I want to see us not be a Bulldogs, I want us to see it be a Hawthorn or a Richmond. I want to see longevity. The only way to get us to be a longevity club with long success is to be a series of growth, to grow the club, to see what they do, to see what they learn, to see them grow, to see them bond together, to see them play a different game style that ensures that whenever they step on that field, they're playing for the jumper. If we can see that, then we can see the slow progression of them being a powerhouse.
So do you think that supporters, Debbie, think that too, or are they purely being sold that it's all about making the 8 or bust every single year with that narrative, that's the pressure that's been put on them in the February media? Because I don't know. Yeah.
I agree. It's all about the pressure of being of we've got to make the 8 irrespective of what happens. The game cannot be the game that we had 20 years ago with John Elliott when he was in charge. Just a different, completely different environment. If we want to be a long-term successful club like the Hawthorns and the Richmonds, it's not about we have to make it or bust in the top 8 next year, or if not, we could see the same thing happen in 2 years' time with with Bossy. We've got to learn to stop. We've got to learn to grow the team. We've got to learn to grow the club, and we've got to learn to be able to step on that field and no matter what, play for the pride of wearing that bloody jumper. Yeah. And we haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Guys, speak to me. What do you think?
Look, I've only caught sitting backstage. I only caught the tails end of a lot of the conversations, but going by what Debs and Steve have been saying in the last minute or so, yes, it is about the jumper. That's true, 100%. For me, as a supporter, and I know there are a lot of people out there that feel the same bloody way, they just want to see consistency. If we lose week in, and round by round, whatever it may be, that's fine. Just consistency and effort. That is all that matters. And if we can't win the games on the board, so be it. But if we make an effort and we show some sort of consistency and, some sort of effort there, that's what it's all about. And we haven't shown that for a long time. Let's be real, for a long time. I'm not going to sit back and expect us to make the finals next year or, finish 9th or 8th, whatever. If I was an outsider as a non-Carlton supporter and I looked at our list compared to the top 8 teams for the last several years, I think we have enough ammunition to get there. And I'm not blowing steam up anyone's ass. I think we have enough ammunition to make the top 8. Really, let's face facts. Richmond will get back up there. They had a staggering run of injuries, and it's fair enough. Okay, but the other teams like Geelong and God bless Melbourne and Bulldogs and the other teams, they deserve to be up there. I see no reason. In an ideal world, I see no reason why the Carlton Football Club can't be up there in the top 8. Whether we finish 8th, 7th, 6th, I don't know. But to play finals next year and just give a taste of what's to come. That's what it's all about.
Guys,
I just want to see consistency.
Guys, can I ask you a question? Do you think Carlton fans will be happy with the fact that if we are consistent but we keep losing? Do you think they'll be happy? Because I don't think they'll be happy.
No.
We need consistency.
We need wins.
Correct. We need consistency
We've been
and
starved
we
of
need
wins.
But we're rebuilding again.
Yeah.
But we're rebuilding again.
But not according to some
we're
Carlton
not,
fans
Steve.
don't think that we
Oh,
are.
there's a whole new set of coaches. There's no continuity at all.
I agree.
Guys, I agree with what you're saying, but sorry, Steve and everyone else. Can I just? I'm just going to bring it back to Debbie. I get what you're asking, but I'll ask you this more important question. Do you think the supporters will be happy with losing games? Like we had games in our let's face facts. We had games in our pockets that we could have won this year. Okay, but we dropped the ball 1, 2, 3 quarters, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, I think that the supporters will be more happy with consistency for 4 absolute quarters than just dropping off the radar. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Vince, you've been very quiet again. I'm worried, Vince.
This is what scares me. When Vince Locasano is quiet, and I'm babbling on over here. This is what
most of our viewers will be actually enjoying the fact that they're not hearing my voice much tonight.
Come on, Vince. Tell us.
Look, I agree. It's a wins and losses business, and even if you win ugly, people will take that over a loss where you appear to have played 3.5 or 4 quarters, but still lost the game. I think there's a bit of merit in what everyone's saying. I don't think anything's going to change next year. I think the biggest pivotal change that has to occur for us to rise up the ladder is a cultural change. It's not just because we've got Adam Chera and just because we've got George Hewitt and just because we've got young as well. I think it's more to do with whether there's a cultural change within the football department, especially at that club. And a lot of that's going to come down to what message Michael Voss has for this team and whether they buy in.
Mm-hmm.
If there's not a buy-in from absolutely everybody, from his own band of assistant coaches right down to every last player on the list, it's not going to work. What I saw work this year with Melbourne is that everybody was committed to the one cause. Yep. They all had the same mentality. They did things for each other, with each other. These are the sorts of things that we were hearing from a guy called David Parkin some 26 years ago about the 1995 team, that they played for each other, that they made the sacrificial acts, those 1%ers. And then when it was your turn to go in, you didn't shirk the issue, you went in. Because if you didn't, it would not be accepted by the rest of the team. So it's all about setting standards and having everyone buy into that, and they hold each other accountable for that. And if we can have that sort of change of culture at our club within the football department, I think we'll go a long way towards making the 8 next year. But if there's no real cultural change, I don't care who you bring in. Nothing's going to change.
Did you see?
Can I? Sorry.
Hang on, one at a time, guys.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Vince, did you see that there was potential finger pointing or potential too much left to too few in those situations? Is that what you picked up from just watching? Of course, we're watching the game, right? We're not in the inner sanctum at all.
Look, from what I can gather, in recent years, the culture at this club has been toxic. There's been little cliques within the football team. You've had little groups of players that all hang around each other, and then other groups, and there's not this one united team that all speaks the same language and sings from the same hymn book. And that's what's got to happen. Now, the powers that be at the club, they're the ones responsible for that culture. If that sort of thing doesn't change, but nothing will change. We will not make the finals. I don't care how many good players you bring in. But nothing's going to change unless that side of things changes.
You can't fix that in sport in 5 minutes. You can't just go on a leadership weekend away to the Mornington Peninsula and fall backwards and catch each other and do those kumbaya sessions.
Understand that.
Right? I'm not speaking for bashing the sandpit on this stuff. It's not my area, but you can't just do that and expect it to be fixed.
I can tell you one thing.
You can't just say, trust me. There's got to be earned.
I'll tell you the one person that I think about who made an immediate impact the minute he walked in the door as the new coach of this team. And it was Lee Matthews at the Brisbane Lions. I mean, they finished bottom of the ladder in 1998. Wooden spooners. He came in and made an immediate impact. Now, of course, with someone who's got the not only the playing career but the respect in the game that Lee Matthews had would immediately command respect. But that sort of thing goes away pretty quickly unless you immediately instill standards and values and get everyone to buy into that. Because very, very quickly, if you talk to the Brisbane Lions players, he made an immediate impact in that particular area. And certain things were not tolerated. Okay? Turning up late for meetings or turning up late that's it, you're out. So immediately the bar is set higher and the players know you mean business. Now, if Michael Voss and the coaching group do not immediately have that sort of impact within our team, and it's all, a bit of a sugar hit for now, but it all wanes into next year, well, then nothing's going to change.
On that point, I agree with you. My biggest fear is if they don't come out shooting from the very beginning, that we could possibly lose one of the best players of the current era, that is Sam Walsh, whose contract is up next year.
Yeah.
If he doesn't see a change, he could possibly say, you know what, I'm going to a better club with a better culture. So possibly. I think it's imperative that, as what you said, that they come out firing from the very beginning as a club and change the culture.
So what I'm saying, Steve,
there's also
Lee Matthews in his very first year got Brisbane from bottom of the ladder to making the finals in 1999. I think they got up to a semi-final, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Then in 2000, they made preliminary finals. And then, as we know, 2001, 2 and 3, they won 3 premierships in a row. So
there's also,
if you've got the ingredients, you've got the cattle, and mind you, he took over what I regard as a pretty good side that just dramatically underperformed in 1998. But nevertheless, it was right down the bottom. The culture was all wrong. He made an immediate impact. That's what Michael Voss has to do at Carlton in order for us to jump straight into the finals.
But Vince, there's a honeymoon period of a new coach though coming in. So players get a fresh start, all of that great stuff. Are you connecting with him and it's different? The message is different. There are a whole new bunch of assistants, but the habits of that individual, if they're not rectified, eventually will come back. And rear their ugly head again.
Of course, leopards don't change their spots overnight.
Do you think that Michael Voss, having played at the Brisbane Lions and played under that type of era, will bring that same?
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? You'd like to think so. He lived through it. He went right through those years.
Can I just?
Sorry, go on. Sorry, guys, go.
Firstly, I just want to make mention of how Joe looks very lost at the moment on the screen, because we're all looking very serious at the moment with this conversation. But I've got to say, Debbie brings up an absolute spot on point. My personal greatest fear is that Sam Walsh will turn around one day and say, "Oh, screw this is too hard. I'm going elsewhere. Hawthorn's knocking on my door, or Brisbane's knocking on my door, whatever." We have the nucleus, we have the spine, and I think this was brought up last week or the week before, whatever, but we have the spine with Adam Serra, Young, Cripps, blah, blah, blah. Yep. We have the spine to make something happening. For me, personally, a year or two ago, we didn't have the spine. We had the rookies. We had the outside of the spine to make something happen at this club. Now, finally, we have the spine to make this happen. So my concern is that the likes of, Sam Walsh and, I don't know, several other players, even though McKay and Cripps have signed, obviously, other players will just turn around and say, oh, screw this is too hard. We're walking away. That's my greatest
fear. We don't want players that think like that. The players have gotten away.
Joe, in all fairness, sorry to jump in. In all fairness, I get what you're saying, but in all fairness, the likes of Sam Walsh, you know what I mean, are like a potential young rookies coming across the board. Do we really want to send them that message that if it gets too hard, you can hit the road, mate?
Yeah, we do want to send that message, because if not, you're just going to be filled with people that will never achieve their potential. If everyone gave up, if everything was too hard, we wouldn't have had the internet. We probably wouldn't have mobile phones. We wouldn't have cars. Let's just all give up.
It's getting philosophical now, but
okay.
Sam Walsh has to actually, Sam Walsh has to actually be one of the. He's a leader now. He's not a young player anymore.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, he's young, but he's actually a leader. He's got to be. He's the person that takes the rest of them with him, and they follow his example. Albeit, don't worry about your birth certificate. Essentially, it's actions.
But it's not just him; it's also Wiedering as well. Wiedering has stepped up in the past year as a leader, as potential leader. It's absolutely 360 to what he was when he first came to the club. You got Wiedering, you've got Sam Walsh, you've got still think Cripper, but you've got those core nucleus of these young players, such as a Walsh, Cripper, and also Wiedering, who could who are future leaders of the club, and they will hopefully drag everybody else with them.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think the other factor
sort of depth in a very, very, very long time. Let's be honest with ourselves. We have not had this sort of depth in a long time. Once upon a time, we used to be able to easily pick a future captain of our club. Now it's like, all of a sudden there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 options. You know what I mean?
But guys, I'll challenge you on that and say we're still 12th or 13th or whatever on the ladder, though. So it comes back to Vince's point of culture, because that's not just about names on the magnets on the board and spines. As good as it is to have that, it's also about the culture, because if you don't get that right, it doesn't matter how good your list is.
You're spot on, Steve. You're spot on. It is about the culture. I mean, Anthony Curtis, I chatted with him a couple of weeks ago, and he said something very profound to me, that when he came to the club, it was a winning feeling. It was a winning culture. It was a winning heart, winning soul of the club. When he left the club, he said to me, when I left the club, it was like complete failure. It was like a club that was on its knees, struggling, etc. So I totally agree with you, Steve. It's about the mentality as well. But you're spot on with that. Spot on.
Can I just add to what I said earlier? Apart from the standards and apart from the culture of the club, another thing that it's going to rely on in terms of our prospects for next year is how well Michael Voss can communicate with the players, and how he builds relationships with those players, and also his team of coaches, because they're responsible for their various lines. So if Aaron Hamill's going to coach the defenders, how well he can build relationships with them. Same with what's his name? Ashley Hansen in the forward line, and our centre line coach as well. So their ability to communicate and to build relationships with the players is going to be vital as well. That's another thing I noticed at Melbourne this year, is that all of their assistants were highly respected people who'd achieved a lot in football themselves, and also communicated really well with their players, whether it be Adam Uze or those assistant coaches that they had there. They all developed very close relationships with their players, and I think that's crucial in today's day and age. And the other thing, of course, is Michael Voss's game plan, and whether his game plan is going to be a successful one for this group of players, because not all game plans work with every group of players, and sometimes you need to modify the game plan depending on the list you've got. So all these factors, I think, will determine whether we actually rise up the ladder into a finals position, or whether we just flounder in that second half of the table.
So Vince, you mentioned the coaches and the relationships. If we're expected just to suddenly make the 8, like a lot of people are tipped.
Well, I think from the president down, they've made predictions and stated expectations that we should be making finals next year. Now, I think that's pretty bold to be doing that before you even know how well your playing list is going to be. These were all predictions made before the trade period, before the draft period. So it's pretty bold to be making these predictions before you even have your set of assistant coaches in place and all these sorts of things. So I think
but those coaches
a lot of us should just take a chill pill and actually see whether this team gels and see whether the coaching team gels with the players. Yeah. Because, we've heard all this sort of thing before, and all of a sudden, it all turns to the proverbial, what.
But my point, Vince, is that those assistant coaches have only got the summer to build those relationships, whereas most other clubs have had a more stable senior coach, obviously a senior coach more stable, a football department that's been more stable, all the assistants have been changed. It's a big expectation to get
my word,
all of those people aligned.
Yep. Probably Collingwood has had a similar shakeout, I think, you'll find.
Yep.
They've lost not only Nathan Buckley, but they've lost Robert Harvey, who took over as an interim coach, and quite a few other assistant coaches. I think Sanderson, who used to be close friends with Buckley, I think he's gone, the former Adelaide coach. Yep. So probably Collingwood would be in a similar boat where everything's all of a sudden just got to click over summer. So I think both Carlton and Collingwood might take a little while to get adjusted in terms of, how the players adjust to the coaching team, how players adjust to the new game plan, and also how they communicate and how well they get along with their coaches.
I think you guys are forgetting...
sorry,
Joe.
No, I think you guys are forgetting one factor, and that is that we're the Carlton Football Club, and our supporters don't tolerate failure. We're not used to it. We don't accept it well, right? And I can just see what's going to happen in about round 2 or round 3. If we're 0-2 or 0-3, the knives will be out.
Yep.
Right?
Well, there's no doubt
that
the usual umming and ahhing will go on, and here we go again.
We got the wrong coach. We should have went harder.
But Joe, in fairness, when you've had such a massive shakeout like that, it does take some time to get things right. You can't just expect it all to click overnight, and at the flick of a finger, all of a sudden you're winning, massive amounts of games in a row or anything like that.
I know that.
If that in fact does happen, fantastic. But if it doesn't happen, we shouldn't be totally surprised.
Yeah, but Joe, Joe, it's a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, though. What the supporters have got at the moment, right? Essentially, we get. It's not nothing from ABBA or anything like that, but essentially,
Steve, why don't you explain to everyone what Stockholm syndrome is in case they're not sure?
Well, we're almost.
Oh, come
Debbie,
on.
you can give us the Wikipedia definition, Debbie.
You go for it.
I can only describe it in my own words. Essentially, it's getting used to almost getting used to failure, almost putting yourself through the same thing and hitting your head against a brick wall, and almost getting used to liking it as well, because it almost gives you a sense of comfort.
And also getting excited and getting all of a sudden enthusiastic the minute there's the one little sign of hope.
Yeah,
all of a sudden responding to that. Mm.
So we sort of go through the cyclical nature of the Stockholm syndrome, where we get excited in the trade period. Who are we going to get? What are we going to do? Then we read the media, all the positive PR articles. We have got probably the best PR organisations. We've got two or three companies behind us in the whole league from a PR point of view. Get a lot of good news stories out. Then we get this big expectation, and then the bubble bursts. Then we get the knives out and blame people, and then we go through the cyclical nature of that. Now,
football supporters are like.
But we're worse. We're worse. Our supporters
are one of the worst. We are one of the worst. I guarantee.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
We are one of the worst. Can I make it say? Somebody wrote in the chats that they're saying that we should we not make it the expectation of finishing in finals? And nobody has ever said that. Nobody ever said we don't want to lower our expectations. What we're saying is that we want to, but it takes time to build up the foundation so we can get to finals. Our expectations is not there.
Unfortunately or fortunately, this current board haven't had that time, right? Because they've had previous boards before them that have been selling us the dream.
Yep.
And instead of the dream, we get a nightmare.
You're kidding, Joe. You're joking. You're completely wrong there, mate. It's the same board, the same group of people. They're just different delegates representing the family factions. You're kidding. You're completely wrong.
Board.
No, it's the same board. You got the Mathesons, the Pratts, the Frees, the same puppeteers behind the scenes, and they're just the delegates.
Hang on, they're behind the scenes. They're not the board. They're not on the board.
There's quite a lot of board members that have been on for nearly a decade now.
Yeah, but I don't want to get onto that. I'm just telling you.
Now?
Yeah, you're wrong there.
Now, can I just jump in now?
Sorry for talking. Sorry for talking while you were interrupting, Goz.
Okay.
Righto, I'm gonna short circuit this. What do you think, Beachy? You've been very well behaved down the bottom of the screen there. Hardly anyone even noticed you were back with us. So, what do you think? Do you think it's fair for us to have the expectation, as our president does, that we're going to be making finals next year, or do you think it's not that simple?
It isn't that simple. I'm going to be short and sweet. It isn't that simple because you've cut out the whole coaches panel to a fresh new panel. You've brought in new players. You've brought in a few other things as well, and you've tried to dust them off. Now we need to see the actions not the words.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Fair enough. Goz, you wanted to say something?
I'm too scared now.
No, go on. Go for it.
But we need to
Let's make our points short and sweet, shall we? Because there's a lot of us on here.
I was going to say, I accept with what you're all saying. Peter Schwab did it at Hawthorn. He came out, opened his mouth too much, in all fairness, and said Hawthorn's going to make the finals this year and nothing else will do, blah, 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 never made the 8. Alistair Clarkson came in, and I had comparisons, but I'm going to do it for this one moment. Alistair Clarkson came in, he dumped all these players. Jonathan Hay, for example, that was the love child, the godsend of the Hawthorn Football Club at that time. I think we need to let the past go. We need to let the past go. Yes, we've been an absolute shitball. Bottom line, we have. For me personally, the treatment of David Teague has been atrocious for a lot of decisions that we're not going to agree on. Okay, but let's be real. We have to start giving this club a chance to do what's right by the supporters, by the members, and I think for me personally, yeah, Michael Voss is a bit of a gamble. If you asked me 12 months ago, where would the Carlton Football Club be with a coach like Michael Voss, I probably wouldn't have been able to answer that. But now I can say, just back him up, give him a go, see where he takes us. He was a Carlton supporter growing up as a kid. I know some people think it matters nothing, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same page, and we just have to give this bloke a chance. We have to give the club a chance, despite all the failures of the last 25 years.
Got your point. What about you, Joe? What are your thoughts?
About
whether it's fair enough for Carlton supporters to expect and be ruthless about their expectations of making finals next year, as the president has come out and said, with a list like ours, we expect to make finals. Or do you think that the new coaching team and the rejuvenated list of players deserves more time to achieve that goal?
Well, to be honest, I don't really take much notice of what the president or the club say. I make my own decision, right?
Yep.
And
So what do you think?
Players, and I have a look at our list, and I have a look at the attitude, and I have a look at the first few rounds. And to be honest, we have a good spine. I'm just curious about. I want to see some improvement in people like Jack Martin, Zach Williams. These sort of players. Mitch McGovern. I mean,
Nick
I think.
Nunes.
No, forget Zach Nunes. These players have come to us on big money, right? Now you either put up or get out. That's our money that they're taking, right? We pay good money. I mean, look, I've paid $3,000 or something in 3 years, and I've been to one game. I'm not complaining, but I get annoyed when I see people like Mitch McGovern just walking around, or Zach Martin turn up to the club looking like he's eaten more pies than me. I'm fitter than him.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I'm not a professional.
Okay. So you think it's fair enough to make finals next year, and anything less is considered failure and unacceptable?
Vince, I expect to make finals every year.
Okay.
Well, Vince,
fair enough.
Let's talk about what are finals, though. What are finals? There's 18 teams and 8 teams make it. It's not like the old days when you had the top 4 or the top 5 where it actually meant something to make finals.
Yeah.
I mean, making finals isn't that big a deal. I mean, you're in the top 45%. You're in the top 45% of the league.
Yeah, but that's the same when you had a top 5 and we only had 12 clubs. I mean, you're still talking about, the top 40 or 45%. The reality is making finals when you're a team like Carlton who hasn't made finals for 9 years, it is a big deal. And I would take making 8th even if we did get beaten in the first week, because I think it's important to experience finals and to get finals into your playing list. If they don't play finals, they don't know what it tastes like.
I agree. You want to make finals.
The Melbourne players didn't taste finals, yet they won a grand final.
That's true, but a lot of them tasted finals in 2018.
Yeah.
Then they went back to only 5 wins the following year and finished second last.
Mm-hmm.
And then then that's when things had to change, and they knew it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they rose back up the ladder to 9th in 2020, and they just missed out on the finals. And from 9th, bingo, they've just proven that in 2 seasons you can go from second last to premiers.
I get your point, Vince. I get your point.
It's cultural.
Vince,
that's what a massive culture shift can do within a football club, and that's what is achievable if you get that real buy-in from everyone at the club.
I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you, Vince. I think I've been thinking about this for a while. The Carlton Football Club as a whole has to stop playing the victim of what happened in the past 20 years. We've got to draw this line in the sand and turn around and say, we are not that club anymore. We are going to be this club. And it starts with the board, it starts with the management, it starts with the administrators, and it starts with the players, and it starts with the coaches. We draw that line in the sand and we cross that, and Boss can do that. Boom, we'll be successful. But we got to stop playing victims. We're not a victim anymore. 20 years is too long.
I think we enjoy it. I think we enjoy playing the victim. Anyway, look, we've been going for nearly an hour and a bit, so we could talk about this all night. But unfortunately, some of us have lives to live, and people have got other things to watch.
Speak for yourself.
Just a couple of administration things. Goz, you wanted to say something about Buzzathon or something, is that right? So here's your chance.
Yeah, just running through a couple of things. We had a Buzzathon that raised almost $10,000 for Peter Buzzusto and Shelley Buzzusto and the family, which has been absolutely phenomenal. Can I quickly just run through Josh Honey? Happy birthday, my friend. 20 years old today. The Doc, 28 years old today. Fantastic. God bless you with your fight ahead of you.
Paddy Dow, 22 today.
Yeah.
Who?
Paddy Dow, 22 today.
She's a lot of birthdays all on the one day.
He is. Yeah, well, he is. He's 22.
I just want to say the Buzz is doing okay. He's had a rough few days. I spoke to Peter Buzzusto this morning and his wife Shelley last night. They caught the cancer early, which is obviously fantastic news. But he's just feeling the effects of chemotherapy. Vince, he wanted to send a personal Gratitude and love to you, my friend. Especially.
Thank you.
The roast. I know the roast, this Peter Bazzusto roast has been postponed so many times over the last several months, as Vince will know. We are earmarking it for March next year. But just keep an eye out and ear out on social media. It will be happening. But all in all, everything's on track. Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Thanks, mate. Yeah, and we do want to wish Peter Bazzusto and Sam Doherty all the best. We hope they're doing really well. So what we've decided, we had a bit of a conversation. We will be back next Sunday. In what format? We'll yet to be watch this space. I'm going to have a discussion amongst the Brains Trust, which I'm not included. I'll just take notes.
We're going to probably start talking about a few other sports while we wait
summer series
for the AFL draft to happen.
Series.
Some music, maybe.
We might do a bit of spring carnival. We might do a bit of golf and a bit of tennis and a bit of cricket. Not tennis probably yet, but cricket. But yeah, so I think it's tremendous that Steve has obviously gotten into the spirit of the fundraising for Sam Doherty for the Peter McCallum Institute. Steve's obviously gotten into the spirit of it. And I reckon it's fantastic that Debbie's volunteered to do it this week and come on next week and show us what it looks like.
It'll never happen. Never, ever happen.
I'm only kidding, Deb.
Yeah.
How can we possibly ask you to shave off that beautiful, blonde, gorgeous hair of yours there? We couldn't possibly do that, could we?
The hairdressers are only just opening in Melbourne, Vince, and you're going to get her to do that. Gee,
I know.
Well, I've got more hair. I've got more hair south of my nose than I have above it. So I'm not going to bother. I promise I'll have a shave this week. How's that, Steve?
That would be very becoming.
Okay.
Hey, Vince or Steve, I've had a few comments up here about the EGM. Which of you would like to comment or make a quick paid political announcement about it?
Oh, look, I don't want to go on much about this, other than to say that unfortunately, despite doing everything we could by the book, and when I say by the book, I mean the Constitution of the Carlton Football Club, to draw up a petition that was prepared by a corporate lawyer who specialises in this sort of thing. And despite getting all of the required amount of signatures, that petition was lodged at the club. And rather than give us a date and a time and a venue for that EGM to happen, the club decided to effectively hide behind its lawyers and prepare a letter that picked on a few clauses within our petition. And because of their allegation, and that's all they had to do, make the allegation that it was invalid, they've chosen not to give us that meeting date. So, unfortunately, it appears that unless you're prepared to spend, tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees in the Supreme Court to enforce the validity of that petition, just to get a meeting, and this is just to get an EGM, which is effectively a meeting, an extraordinary general meeting, it's not viable to do it. So, what everyone should take out of this situation is that despite doing everything that you could be asked of as a group of members to bring about some democracy, the Carlton board's not interested in democracy. It's not interested in following the rules of the Constitution. It would rather hide behind its lawyers, pick on your petition, basically just pick a few clauses and say that we don't believe that these things are valid, and therefore we're not going to give you a meeting. So democracy is dead. Democracy is effectively dead unless you got the backing of some high-powered lawyers who are going to donate their services and take you all the way to the Supreme Court just to get a meeting. So I know I'm not prepared to do that. But in the meantime, what I am heartened by is that we are in discussions with the club now to see off these constitutional changes that they tried to bring in July and August. And I'm heartened by the response I've had from the club so far in relation to doing away with those changes that they tried to bring in back in August, which would have further entrenched their power as a board and would have made it almost impossible for the Carlton members to ever hold them to account. So I look forward to their their decisions in relation to these clauses. And I would hope that come the next annual general meeting, that the new constitution will not include those particular clauses. So I'm hopeful that that's what we end up with.
Okay.
And if we can achieve that, I think that would be a tremendous outcome in the meantime, even though we didn't get our meeting, our EGM, which would have essentially given the members a democratic right to choose whether they wanted to stick with this board or whether they wanted an election of all 8 positions. That's what we've been denied. But in the meantime, I'm hopeful that these constitutional changes will be done away with. Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yeah, no, so I just on behalf of all Carlton supporters, I don't know if I speak on everyone, thanks to you and Steve for at least trying to keep them honest and fighting for the rights of the members. I know a lot of members probably didn't even know what was going on. I was one of them. I didn't read it properly. So then once you pointed out the facts, I sort of thought, well, this looked a bit wrong. But anyway, I should
point out too, Joe, especially for people like you who are based in Thailand and for other Carlton members who are based in other countries, one of the other changes that I've advocated for is not only for AFL members with Carlton support to be part of the voting pool, and not only for AFLW members to be part of the voting pool, but we've also advocated for international members like you, like Richard Hussein over there in Dubai, and other international members that we know of, for them to also be given a vote at Carlton meetings and be able to attend EGMs and sign petitions and that sort of thing.
I'm actually not an international member. I'm actually a full paid-up member.
Well, what I'm saying is if you chose to be an international member based overseas, you can still be a voting member if you hold an international membership,
They don't have an international membership, which is quite weird.
Well, they do, and what it is that it's not part of the voting pool. And that's what I'm trying to introduce now is that that international members who pay their few $100s a year to be a member can also be part of the voting pool, even though that international membership doesn't give them any rights to any games, as you can imagine. You know, they're based overseas. So they pay a few $100s every year to be a Carlton member with an international membership, and yet they don't get voting rights. So I think that's something that ought to be changed. And so far, the club has been very responsive in a positive way to that sort of a change.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually an international member of the Chelsea Football Club, where I pay...
Well, why not do it at the Carlton Football Club?
You're looking pretty good at the moment, sitting on top of the league.
Well, I pay £100, and that entitles me. I get access to what they call in the blue room and all these things, and I actually do get to vote at their meetings. Not that I understand.
Well, what we should mention, Joe, is that next week onwards, we're going to have a cricket report with our cricket expert, Chris Beach, who's basically the Ricky Ponting of cricket experts.
Yeah. And Goss is going to give us an update on Neighbours every week. Because
no, he's not.
Well, we know you like that show, Vince.
No, don't be stupid.
Behave, Vince.
You got to be kidding me. So anyway, Debbie, thank you very much for joining us this week. You've been tremendous as usual.
Thank you, guys.
Please don't shave off your hair. You look too attractive as it is.
After the internet heebie-jeebies.
And Steve, we'll look forward to having you on a lot more often from now on. Thanks again for your
Absolutely. No, look forward to potentially coming on the summer series and a bit more laid-back version. Can I just close with one last parting comment? On a positive note, great to see the Carlton Football Club finally changing their membership pack options. Just for those members who weren't aware of the reasoning behind it, essentially, if you send a membership pack with just the stickers and the card, it's thin enough to be able to be sent as an international letter from a third world country such as Vietnam, and it's cheaper than being sent from the same country. Hey. So now the membership pack is a lot thicker, and it's actually being sent from Australia. So your membership might be $2 more in postage, but you'll get your bits and pieces and your goodies with it. So that was the reasoning behind it. About 15 or 14 of the clubs do the local membership, but about 4 or 5 of them have done the international option, and Carlton's decided to scrap that. So a good decision for all.
I've got some ties downstairs that'll happily do it for, a couple of bucks.
It's not so much that, it's Joe, it's utilising the United Postal Union and their charges. So if you send something from one of those countries into Australia, it's cheaper than sending something from within the country itself.
Right.
Not
Beachy?
anymore.
Beachy? Sorry, go on, Joe.
No, I was going to say, this is just between us, right, and the internet. Ask for a discount when you renew your membership.
Well, again, I don't think that they ought to be giving discounts to people just because they threaten to stop being a member, and yet they don't offer that same discount to anyone who loyally pays their fees every year. I think that's the wrong message.
Like your insurance policy, Vince. If you don't shop around, though, you pay that. You pay the loyalty tax on top.
Loyalty costs the loyal person a lot of money. What about
Look
you,
at Melbourne
Beachy?
Storm.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Beachy. You've been very well behaved as usual. You'd almost be forgiven if you were reading a book in that library of yours during that show.
I've got to say, I love that chair.
Hey, Beachy.
You're in chambers there. Looks like you got your.
I've got a question for Mr. Beach.
Sorry, guys. Steve, it's funny because I actually do work in the legal industry, so...
That does not surprise anybody.
No.
Actually, Steve, let truth be known, he's in Owen Dixon's chambers over there in Lonsdale.
Just quarter William and Lonsdale.
That's it.
Yeah,
and Goz? Sorry, go on,
before we go to Goz...
Got your trolley of files?
Beachy, I had a question. That library's looking rather thin. Or have you moved the angle of the computer?
Books are on loan.
I'm trying to organise something for that. I'm in the throes of trying to organise something for that. It's going to take a little time, but we'll get there.
All right.
And I might see the Melbourne Victory game as well, mate.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
And Goz, as usual, the passionate one himself, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me on, guys, and listening to my, babbling on, whatever the case.
That's all right.
I just want to say
thanks, everyone.
So
hopefully some of you still want to come back next week and we'll do another show. It'll be a bit different, but Joe and I and the Brains Trust, as he puts it, we'll get together and we'll have a slightly different format. We'll do a little bit of spring carnival. We'll do a bit of cricket, a bit of golf. By the way, just on the golf, Adam Scott's only three shots behind the lead with 1 round to go. I think he's a big chance to win tonight.
Oh, big
great breakthrough.
Over there in Las Vegas.
Honest to God.
Big tournament in Las Vegas.
So,
We'll chat with the executive producer offline on the show for next week.
That's right.
Yeah, we will. Hey, so listen, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for attending. All of you people that have been locked up in Melbourne. I think you get let out for good behaviour on Thursday. Am I right?
Yeah, Thursday, 11:59.
I'm not holding my breath until it actually happens.
So does that mean on Friday when I pick up the paper, COVID cases will have gone through the roof? Oh, let's lock up the country again.
We're subscribing to the national roadmap, Joe. That's the catch cry you use now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's right. National roadmap.
Joe, I think you and I need to catch up.
You'll have to tell me offline.
Steve.
I don't know.
Need to catch up for coffee.
Oh, the classic war cry.
Love you.
We're all going to die. Anyway, so look, that's it. Everyone have a really nice week. Stay safe and enjoy your week, and we'll see everyone next week. So bye for now.
Go Blues.
Bye. See ya. Go Blues.
Bye.